Could One Punch Man's Saitama survive Darkseid? What do we think about that? Let me know down in the comments below right now who you guys think taking this. I'm gonna have to go with One Punch Man Saitama just because he is that broken, isn't he? Isn't he just like a gag, like joke character basically? Usually with a lot of like gag joke characters, they'll be overly busted and can do everything and be everybody no matter what. So I'm kind of interested to see if Darkseid could even step face to face with this man. Let's find out though, boys. Hit that like button, hit that sub button if you haven't already. Another Nerd Science bangerino, gentlemen.
What happens when an unstoppable punch meets an attack that doesn't care about your fists? The sky over Z City turns blood red. The clouds don't disperse, they shatter. Like someone cracked a pane of glass across the entire atmosphere, and standing in the middle of it all is Saitama, holding a plastic bag with discounted cabbage, genuinely more upset about his supermarket getting vaporized than the literal cosmic invasion happening above his head. Today, we're breaking down what happens when a gag character runs into a conceptual god, and whether Saitama's broken biology can save him from something that doesn't even target his body. The Parademon problem. The invasion doesn't start with a whisper. It starts with a sound like a continent folding in half. A boom tube tears open in the upper atmosphere. That's a stable wormhole punched through space-time.
Like I always wondered too, how the hell did they make a series out of One Punch Man if he could just go around one punching, like one tapping things? But then again, you can make a series out of anything for real, you know what I mean?
Using the mathematics of the source wall, the boundary that holds the DC multiverse together. Through it pours millions of parademons. These aren't random monsters. They are biologically re-engineered shock troops, creatures that were once living beings from conjured worlds, stripped of identity and rebuilt as weapons. They've pacified entire star systems. They blot out the sun over Z City like a living storm cloud. Saitama looks up. He squints.
Boy, eating a ball of lettuce.
If you're new to co-producer, you could really type in any.
He brushes a piece of ash off his cabbage. Here's where we get into some actual physics, because what happens next is genuinely wild. When Saitama swings his arm in a casual, bored wave, the kinetic energy transferred through that single gesture is enough to compress the surrounding air column violently. Think of it like a shock wave with a thermobaric explosion, except generated by one irritated man in a yellow tracksuit. The sudden pressure differential creates a localized vacuum pocket. For the parademons caught in that wave, the thermodynamic friction alone is enough to ignite their outer carapace. He clears the entire swarm in roughly 3 seconds. It's not a battle, it's an extermination. The sky goes from black with bodies to completely empty, with a faint smell of ozone and burning chittens hanging over the city block. Now here's the thing though, destroying the army doesn't close the portal. It makes it worse. In DC canon, boom tubes are held open by a continuous energy signal from Apocalypse. When Darkseid's army stops transmitting back, the system doesn't shut down. It registers a massive anomaly and widens the connection, like a distress beacon firing automatically. The bigger the silence on the other end, the louder the alert becomes on Darkseid's end. So Saitama just accidentally set the most alarming report in the history of Apocalypse. Survival tier for this stage? Solid S.
He doesn't even care.
Represent a genuine extinction level threat for any normal civilization. And Saitama doesn't even put his groceries down. The kinetic math here is simple. His output vastly exceeds anything biological engineering can absorb. There's no version of this where the swarm wins. But the swarm was never the point. It was a test, and the result of that test just got delivered directly to a being who has erased entire realities for sport. The boss is paying attention now. The Avatar descends. The boom tube doesn't close, it widens, and then something steps through it that makes the air itself go quiet. A boot the size of a cargo truck hits the pavement of Z City, then another. The ground doesn't just shake, it compresses, like the earth is trying to get out of the way. Standing at the end of the street is an avatar of Darkseid. Not the true form, not yet, just a fragment of his consciousness wearing a body. His voice comes out at a frequency that makes the tectonic plates underneath Z City actually groan. He announces that this world is now a province of apocalypse. He announces
Darkseid is so
resistance
badass,
is a
bro.
biological error. He demands submission. Saitama stares at him for a long moment. Then he asks if this is some kind of cosplay event. Darkseid's avatar doesn't respond well to that. This is where the fight escalates fast, because Darkseid doesn't open with a punch. He opens with the Omega beams, the red eye lasers. You're significantly underselling what they actually do. The Omega effect isn't an energy weapon in any conventional physics sense. It doesn't burn or explode. What it does is closer to ontological erasure. It targets the fundamental information signature of its victims at the quantum level and dismantles the molecular bonds that define their existence. It doesn't destroy matter so much as it deletes the instructions for that matter to exist. Targets don't leave a body behind. They leave nothing. The beams track. They curve around corners, reverse direction mid-flight. You cannot dodge them by being fast. Speed is irrelevant. Saitama doesn't dodge anyway. He just stands there, bag of cabbage still in his hand. The beams hit him square in the chest, and the entire block lights up white. When it clears, his hoodie's gone, just completely incinerated. His tracksuit top vaporized. His skin, however, faintly smoking. There's a slight scorch mark across his collarbone. Here's why that matters. We know from his fight against Cosmic Guru that Saitama can physically interact with structures built from hyperspace geometry. He punched through a gate that was operating outside normal space-time entirely. His biological limiter isn't just removed in the sense of raw strength. His entire physical existence has scaled beyond the parameters that conventional energy manipulation can target. The Omega effect is designed to unravel matter at the quantum level, but Saitama's body doesn't behave like normal matter anymore. There's nothing stable to erase. His durability isn't a defense. It's an incompatibility. He looks down at the scorch mark. He looks back up at the avatar. He throws a normal punch. Not a serious punch, not even a particularly committed one, just a regular, casual, mildly inconvenienced punch. The avatar detonates. Not dramatically, not with a speech. It just ceases to be a coherent structure. Cosmic dust spreading out across 3 city blocks before the wind takes it. Survival tier here, high A. The Omega beams land, they just can't finish the job. That's an important distinction because Darkseid now knows that his primary weapon didn't work, and that changes everything about what he tries next. The Omega Sanction. The avatar's gone, but the sky stays red. Darkseid doesn't need a body to speak. His voice arrives directly inside Saitama's skull, bypassing ears entirely, landed somewhere behind the eyes like a migraine with an agenda. And what he says isn't a threat, it's a sentence. A single, complete mathematical sentence, the opening line of the anti-life equation. Now, most people hear anti-life equation and picture some kind of spell or psychic blast. It's not that. It's closer to a logical proof, a self-contained argument expressed in a mathematical language that maps directly onto the architecture of conscious thought that arrives at one unavoidable conclusion. Free will is a biological illusion. Hope is a statistical error, and the desire to resist is simply a
free will is a
that
biological
hasn't been
illusion.
corrected yet. It doesn't override your mind. It convinces it. Heroes with genius-level intellects and decades of mental fortitude have heard the first few lines and folded completely because the math is airtight, and the brain, once it follows the logic, can't unfollow it. The truth is, this is where the survival odds actually drop. Not because Saitama is weak, but because this attack has nothing to do with strength. So, what happens when it hits him? He zones out. Not dramatically, not with any visible struggle. The equation starts its recursive loop inside his neural pathways, and Saitama's brain, a brain that spent years operating on the single frequency of...
Wait, so the anti-life equation, what is it? Like he said it's like a proof or something, like something you look at and you slowly start to die from looking at it or something like that.
Fight a good fight, get groceries, watch TV, simply doesn't have the cognitive infrastructure for existential dread to take hold. The mathematical proof requires a mind that engages with the premise. Saitama's mind filed the premise under too long, didn't finish somewhere around line 2 and moved on to thinking about whether the convenience store down the block survived the invasion. From a neuroscience angle, this is actually coherent. The anti-life equation works by hijacking the prefrontal cortex's capacity for abstract reasoning and turning it against the individual. But that process requires sustained attention. It requires a mind that will sit with the argument. Saitama's brain is wired for one thing: the pursuit of a meaningful challenge. And a philosophical proof delivered by a disembodied voice doesn't register as a challenge. It registers as background noise. But here's the caveat. Saitama's nose starts bleeding. Not a lot, just a slow trickle from his left nostril that he notices when it drips onto what's left of his grocery bag. He reaches up and touches it, confused.
So his power is basically that this dude is just not so nonchalant. Nothing just ever bothers him, right? I mean, this man was put right in front of the anti-life equation, and survived. So I guess, yeah, he's the god of nonchalant.
He becomes aware of the pressure in his skull, dense and geometric, like something trying to fold the inside of his head into a smaller shape. It's not pain exactly. It's closer to the feeling of standing too close to a speaker playing a frequency you can't quite hear, but your chest definitely feels. It's the first time in years he's experienced something that qualifies as a genuine physical discomfort from a non-physical source. His durability handles matter. It handles energy. It handles space-time geometry. He survives it because of how he thinks, not because of how hard his skull is. That's a meaningful distinction. Survival tier for this stage? B. He gets through it, but not cleanly. The pressure is real. The bleeding is real, and Darksied, monitoring the results in real time, now knows.
Not that you should be doing that. Oh.
What is
wait,
this?
Are they gonna arrest me? What happens? Oh, they're getting out! Oh, they have guns!
Knows exactly which door doesn't have a lock on it. The next move won't be a weapon. It'll be architecture. True form and anti-life. Reality doesn't break dramatically. It cracks quietly. A slow tick, 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 spreading across the sky above Z City until the entire atmosphere looks like a shattered phone screen. The dimensional geometry of the One Punch Man universe is being physically compressed, folding inward toward a single gravitational source so massive it doesn't have a location so much as it has a presence. True form of Darkseid isn't arriving, he's absorbing. This is the version of Darkseid that, when he fell during Final Crisis, the shockwave of his descent nearly unraveled the entire DC multiverse. He isn't a being who exists inside space. He's a being that space exists inside of. His true form operates above the dimensional tier that normal...
Is he really... Okay, is Darkseid really this, like, godlike, though? Like, he's this godlike, how he's explaining it? Because I never knew that Darkseid was this godlike. Like, he drops from the ground and the whole world, like, in the universe is like cracking or some shit. Like, I never heard that.
Physics can describe. He's closer to a mathematical constant than a person, a fixed point of absolute domination written into the fabric of reality itself. And he's decided to pull Earth out of its universe entirely and drop it into Apocalypse like a trophy. The dimensional rift opens directly above the city, visible as a tear roughly the shape of an eye, bleeding orange from the other side. Through it, you can see the burning plains of Apocalypse, fire pits the size of continents, sky permanently choked with ash and industry. The gravitational pull from the rift starts dragging structures off the ground. Lampposts lean toward it. Cars slide. Saitama looks at all of this. He sets down what's left of his grocery bag, and he actually cracks his knuckles. Not because he's excited, because this is getting genuinely annoying.
Right, I'm about to say.
The rift closed. He already knows
annoyed,
that.
like...
You can't hit a geometry property of space-time and expect it to apologize and leave. But he can do something he's done before on a smaller scale. He can use the mass displacement of an extreme kinetic event to sever the tether. He did a version of this against Guru when he flipped the very conceptual framework of their fight. The serious table flip that shattered a moon's surface was essentially the same mechanic. Not a punch, but a wedge, using exponential force output to physically interrupt a structural process. He reaches out, digs both hands into the edges of the dimensional rift like he's grabbing the frame of a door someone's trying to close on him, and he pulls, not in, but sideways with everything he has. The kinetic output is incalculable. His power doesn't have a ceiling because his limiter was removed, which means the force he can generate scales with the resistance he encounters. The harder the rift pushes back, the harder he pulls. It's a feedback loop with no upper boundary on his end. The tether connecting Earth to Apocalypse stretches, frays at the conceptual level, and then severs. Not with an explosion, but with a sound like a piano string snapping inside a cathedral. Darkseid's presence recedes, not defeated, not destroyed, just cut off. Earth doesn't return to where it was, though. The rift closing behind it leaves the planet slightly displaced from its original dimensional coordinates. Not catastrophically, but permanently. Z-City's sky is now the faintest shade of wrong. A blue that's almost right. Stars at night that don't quite match the old constellations.
Damn, so Darkseid basically moved the whole entire planet.
Survive the Omega Sanction, and his raw output severed a multiversal anchor.
Or was it low-key Saitama because he was the one who closed the rift or whatever?
But his quiet, boring Tuesday is gone for good now. Survival tier,
it was boring.
He wins. He just doesn't get to go home the same way.
Doesn't get to go home the same way.
He beat a god and lost his grocery store. Absolute power protects your body. It can't always protect your normal life. What do you think? Could anyone else in his universe have survived even one of those stages? Drop it in the comments below. Like and subscribe for more deep dives like this one.
I don't know any characters in the whole One Punch Man Saitama universe, but I would assume not. I would assume that One Punch Man is actually probably the most busted character in that show. And you guys can let me know down in the comments below, because I have never seen the show or read the manga, so I have no idea. But there's probably somebody in there who could trade blows with Saitama, possibly. Highly doubt it. Nerd Science saying like Saitama's limiter being removed just tells me that he's unlimited. He has unlimited power. So he's basically a god himself. Could One Punch Man Saitama survive Darkseid? In reality, it should be, could Darkseid survive One Punch Man? No. That'll do, boys. GG's. Another Nerd Science bangerino.